Without Seth Gross, can Wisconsin handle the rest of the Big Ten? Let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans, and welcome to this week's lineup preview where I am talking all about Wisconsin. My name's Josiah and welcome to Fanco Wrestling. Now let's dive straight into Wisconsin lineup. It's unfortunate because this year they're actually losing half of their team, so half of their starters are now out. They're losing Seth Gross, Tristan Moran, Cole Martin, Johnny Sebastian, and Taylor Watkins. All of these guys are out for this next year because they are graduated, but they do have a good amount of guys coming into the lineup, including the number one recruit in the class of 2020, who I will get to in just a bit. Just wanted to mention a little bit about Wisconsin last year. So Wisconsin last year, they were 11-6 overall. They took 9th at the Big Ten championships, losing to overall in the season Northern Iowa, Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State, Minnesota, Iowa. Their best win of the year, however, was over Nebraska. That was their best win of the season, but we'll see how they're going to do as far as the dual meet season next year. But here's who they have. Starting off at 125 pounds. They have a couple guys here, and throughout the first 5 weights, really, this is a young team. A young team in Wisconsin. A lot of freshmen, a lot of sophomores, and I'll give you a little bit of their background, where they were ranked in their class and how they could do. So, starting off with 125 pounds, Eric Barnett and Ethan Rotundo are the two guys here. Rotundo took a redshirt last year. He's actually a redshirt junior to Barnett's sophomore year, and Rotundo finished 10th at the Big Ten in 2019, won a couple of opens in the past, but last year actually Eric Barnett was the starter, took 10th in the Big Ten championships, and he's the one who actually ended up beating Rotundo at Midlands by a score, a close decision, but nonetheless he did beat him. Kind of had a tough end of the season, couple losses, but throughout the season he did beat Malik Hounselman, Alex Thompson of Nebraska, which were 2 solid wins for him and will be good for the next season, and so that's why I have Barnett starting at 125 pounds is Barnett. And, he started last year, 21-11, and, he should be good start off for Wisconsin next year. Moving on to 133 pounds. At 133 pounds, another couple of guys here, this time a redshirt freshman and a sophomore. Kyle Berwick is the freshman to Dominic Dentino's sophomore year. Who are these guys? Dentino last year was 4-8, but really the starter here is going to be Kyle Berwick. This is a big weight to fill for Wisconsin next year, considering the fact that this was where Seth Gross was. So, Seth Gross, who arguably could have won a national championship last year, that's a big weight to fill at 133 pounds. And we know how tough the Big Ten is, and just really the entire field is at 133 pounds. But Kyle Berwick's going to be the starter here, the redshirt freshman, top 50 recruit in his class, and number 6 overall at 126 pounds. He's actually a 5-time North Dakota state champion and ended up placing at a couple opens last year, so he's had a relatively decent year, with a 15-6 overall record. His best match was over Michael McGee, who he actually lost to by a 9-4 decision, but that's just his best match, just something to base off of, how he could do in the future. Moving on next to the next weight at 141 pounds, and this is a weight that has a few more guys in it than the last two. We have Trey Escobar, Jeremy Schoner, and Nicholas Termini, and this is a weight where we have a couple guys who beat each other throughout the regular season last year, and that will kind of help out in determining the lineup. Of course, wrestle-offs are always a major factor here. Another big weight to fill, with Tristan Moran being here at 141 last year, had a solid season. Trey Escobar, number 6 at 133 pounds, coming out of high school, and he's actually an Arizona state champion. Won at the Pointer Open last year, so a great start to his college career, winning an Open. And he actually defeated already Nicholas Termini. Termini, the 2-time Illinois state champion, could have been a starter here, still could be a starter here. And then you have Jeremy Schoner, who was 22-6 in 2019, did not wrestle any matches last year, actually. But the starter here, most likely, is just based off of these past facts, is going to be Trey Escobar, considering the fact that he already beat Nicholas Termini, Trey Escobar is going to be the starter here at 141 pounds. Now, moving on to 149 pounds, who do we have next year? This is a loaded weight with a lot of freshmen. So many freshmen at this weight. Cole Avery, Aiden Medora, Daniel Stelling, Joseph Zargo, excuse me. So many guys at this weight. Now, Medora, Zargo, and Bavery, they are all incoming freshmen, and I don't expect any of them to start just because, Wisconsin's going to take some time to really groom these guys, get them ready for college. That's my expectations, considering the fact that Stilling, just came out of a redshirt year with a 15-10 record. He was a 3-time state placer in Wisconsin, and he actually lost to his teammate Nicholas Termini. So if you see Termini doesn't get the spot at 41, you may see him bump up to 149. Time will tell. Wrestle-off will tell, obviously. Now, as far as the rest of these guys, like I said, 3 out of the 8 incoming guys that Wisconsin has are actually all at this weight, and that is going to be very important for Wisconsin coming up in the future. Medora is a 2-time Wisconsin state champion, a Fargo runner-up, so he had a very, very solid high school career. Zargo, on the other hand, number 11 in high school at his weight class, 2-time Fargo All-American, just a very solid resume, Flow Nationals champion. He's actually from New Jersey, so you see some guys coming out of New Jersey, coming out from other states just besides, Wisconsin. And then Bavery, 3-time state placer from Wisconsin. Now, the starter here, like I said, going to most likely be Daniel Stilling. You could see one of these other freshmen come in if Wisconsin finds a need for that, but that's just my prediction there. Now, moving on to the next weight at 157 pounds, another loaded weight for Wisconsin. And you'll see Garrett Model, Drew Sharonbrock, Devin Bear, Patrick Spray, Cody Anderson, Gavin Model, of course, the brother to Garrett Model. So many of these guys, and you have a slew of guys from freshmen, sophomores, juniors, all around the place. A couple guys I want to mention. Gavin Model is the 3-time team state champion, actually, out of Wisconsin. He did compete in multiple sports. Cody Anderson is a 4-time state medalist out of Iowa, so a solid guy. And then I also want to mention Garrett Model, who I believe is going to end up being the starter next year. Model took 8th place at Big Tens last year, had a 9-15 record. He had a couple losses to Van Brill, Barone of Illinois, Van Brill, of course, of Rutgers, Thomas of Minnesota, but he did defeat Elijah Cleary of Ohio State, and his best win was probably beating Bo Pfeiffer of Penn State in the duel. Just as far as I'm concerned, that's probably his best win. And now we move into Wisconsin's just strong part of the lineup. Wisconsin's strong part of the lineup starts from 165 all the way up to heavyweight. And, the first part of the lineup was tough there because you have a lot of incoming freshmen, a lot of incoming guys. But now that we move on to the rest of this lineup, we're going to see this is where Wisconsin really comes alive. And of course, that's starting off with Josh Otto and Evan Wick. Now, Otto is the redshirt freshman, 15-6 last year, number 15 at 170 pounds coming out of high school, 2-time state champion out of Wisconsin. But he's not going to get the starting spot here just because, he's a young guy, and you have Evan Wick, who's number 4 in the country right now for Wisconsin. You could see him bump up depending on a couple of those guys. Of course, the guys above him right now are the Bull, Alex Marinelli, Shane Griffith out of Stanford, and Mekhi Lewis out of Virginia Tech. This is one of the toughest weights next year, I believe. Going to be a tough weight to win. A big battle at 165 pounds. But you're going to see Evan Wick here. He is a 2-time All-American, placing 3rd and 4th in the past. And he just always performs. He has losses already, to Marinelli in the past, but all of those losses have actually been by, a couple of points and have been able to easily be turned. And he actually has beat Marinelli in the past. He hasn't beat those other guys ranked ahead of him, but this could be interesting to see where Evan Wick goes in the future for this year. Now, moving on to 174 pounds. This is another weight where we have a few guys: Jared Kradiger, Seth Vossers, Graham Calhoun, and Anders Lance. Lance is actually a former transfer from South Dakota State, so kind of followed with Coach Bono, as well as Seth Gross, who he actually did start last year in the Navy duel. But Kradiger is going to end up being the starter here, even over a couple of these other guys. You got Kradiger, who's going to end up being the starter. He placed 9th in the Big Ten championships. 50% of his wins were by bonus, and he had kind of a tough dual meet season. Like I said, 9 wins. 50% of those by bonus, which is pretty impressive, but kind of a tough dual meet season. considering the fact that he had Mark Hall, Mikey Labriola, Kayla Romero, Michael Kember. I mean, just a tough weight is 174 pounds. But with a couple of these backups, you know, it'll be good news for Wisconsin going on forward into the future. Now, moving on to 184 pounds, we have Chris Weiler and Tyler Dow. Now, you may know Tyler Dow started a few duels last season for Wisconsin, but the guy you may or may not know is Chris Weiler, who actually transferred from Lehigh. Now, he took second in the EIWA last year, losing to Lou Dupre, who he actually had beat earlier on in the season. Right now, he's ranked top 15 going into the 2021 season, and he had great wins over Tanner Harvey of American, Noah Stewart, as well as, you know, he's a two-time All-American, or not All-American, excuse me, two-time national qualifier, made the round of 12 in the past. So Chris Weiler is going to be a great guy coming in, filling in for Johnny Sebastian, who left last year. And then next we're going to move on to 197 pounds. And at 197 pounds, this is where Wisconsin has the #1 recruit in the class of 2020, and that is Braxton Amos. Braxton Amos is the #1 recruit, a solid wrestler. Right here you see him is Braxton Amos. Now, he's the #1 recruit for a reason. He's 132-0 in high school, coming out of West Virginia. He's a junior national freestyle champ, a Pan Am silver medalist in Greco, and in high school he was a 3-time West Virginia state champion, a 3-time Ironman champion, a 3-time Powerade champion, and a 3-time Super 32 champion. So this kid won it all. I mean, there was a point where I believe, and it may even be standing right now, he had not given up a single offensive point in high school. So he's the real deal. Braxton Amos is the real deal. Now, is he going to start next year? Probably not, just because of the fact that you have Peter Christensen, who's starting right now as a sophomore, and they're probably going to give Braxton Amos some time to come onto the scene. Now, is it possible? Yeah, I believe it's possible that he starts next year, but I think it's more likely that Peter Christensen starts as the number 23 recruit in the class of 2019, so he's a very solid wrestler himself, a 2-time Illinois state champion, and he actually placed second at Ironman, so I mean, he's no slump either. Is Peter Christensen. This is going to be a tough competitive spot for these two. Now we move on to 285 pounds. 285 pounds is another tough weight for Wisconsin with Trent Hilger, Jonas Schmidtke, as well as Andrew Salemi. So Trent Hilger is going to be your starter here. I think a lot of you know that, you know, coming into his junior season, has just had a solid resume in the past, is a former All-American. But as far as the other two guys, you have Jonas Schmidtke, who's a freshman coming out of Clovis East in California. He's a state placer in California, which is obviously an impressive feat in that state. So we also have Andrew Salemi, who has started in the past, wrestled a lot of D2, D3 guys in opens, but really the starter here is going to end up being Trent Hilger, because he placed 4th at the Big Ten Championships last year, but a tough weight is heavyweight, losing to Cassiope as well as Mason Paris, but he did beat Gary Traub of Ohio State, which is going to play an important role coming into the future. You know, he is coming in as number 5 into the 2021 season with a tough guys like Gable Stevenson, Mason Paris, Anthony Cassiope, Matt Stencil. It's just going to be a tough year. Can he get the job done? Yeah, I think he can get the job done. He's done a great job in the past, and we'll probably see him do a great job in the future. A tough lineup the team is going to have. We'll see how they do coming into the 2021 season. Please let me know what you think in the comments, but I want to go ahead and let you know that we have other lineup previews on this channel that you may be interested in. Make sure you click this video to watch the next lineup preview.